Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into a genuinely wild business anomaly. We're going to explore this incredible situation where unprecedented historic success is actually creating a massive strategic crisis. We're looking at Rolex and how being literally the absolute best in the world at what you do can sometimes back you into a very, very difficult corner.
All right, picture this. You walk into a store today with 10 grand in cash, ready to drop it on a premium product. Now, in almost any other industry on Earth, you'd be treated like absolute royalty, right? But at a Rolex authorized dealer, that 10 grand won't even buy you a stainless steel Daytona or a GMT Master 2. Instead, it might only buy you a spot on a wait list spanning a decade. Yes, you heard that right. 10 years.
It's gotten to the point where there's an ongoing joke among watch enthusiasts. You never actually own a Rolex. Eventually, your children inherit your place on the waiting list. It's just a bizarre reality. You have customers literally begging to give this company their money, and they simply cannot do it.
So part 1, the 10-year waitlist. To really grasp how we got here, we have to look at the ground reality. Since about 2016, if you've walked into an authorized dealer anywhere from New York to Tokyo, you've probably noticed something: completely barren showcases. And this massive bottleneck revolves specifically around these stainless steel sports models, like the Daytona, the Submariner, and the GMT Master 2. The demand for these specific pieces is quite possibly the highest it has ever been in the company's entire history.
Which brings us to part 2, a century of mystique.
Look, this kind of hype doesn't just materialize overnight. It took well over a century to build. Starting back in 1905, Rolex didn't just market themselves well, they innovated relentlessly. In 1926, they gave the world the Oyster, which was the very first waterproof wristwatch. Fast forward to 1953, they introduced the Submarine, the first diver's watch waterproof to 330 feet. That century of uncompromising innovation, it created the ultimate hallmark of personal achievement.
And what does a century of grinding get you? Absolute market dominance. By 2018, Rolex was sitting on a 22.2% global market share in traditional Swiss watches. That generated over $5 billion in revenue and landed them a staggering $9.5 billion brand valuation by Forbes. Today, they possess the absolute highest brand awareness globally, bar none.
But they actually back up all that prestige with some seriously meticulous craftsmanship. They don't take shortcuts. Rolex actually produces their own gold in-house just to ensure absolute quality control. Plus, they use this highly exclusive, notoriously difficult to fabricate 94L steel, which is far superior to what most competitors are using. Oh, and every single watch takes over a year to make. This total, uncompromising dedication to quality is basically the foundation of their current supply problem.
Now here's where things get really complicated. Part 3, the gray market threat. This massive success is actually breeding a crisis. Take the GMT Master 2, the one everybody calls the Pepsi. At authorized retail, it was supposed to be around $9,250. But because you literally cannot find it in stores, unauthorized gray market dealers step in and sell that exact same watch for over $19,000. Rolex is essentially watching outsiders capture that massive financial surplus right from under their noses.
The former head of LVMH's watch division, Jean-Claude Beaver, really hit the nail on the head when he said, "Gray market is industry's cancer." Think about it. These massive markups severely frustrate loyal consumers who just want to buy a watch at a normal retail price. Meanwhile, authorized dealers who are usually sitting in prime, expensive commercial real estate can't pay their rent because their showcases are empty. It threatens to completely tarnish the brand's hard-earned reputation.
And if that wasn't enough, there is an even larger existential threat looming in the background. While traditional brands are fighting over gray market markups, smartwatch sales have just gone completely vertical. Since it dropped in 2014, the Apple Watch skyrocketed. By 2018, it practically mirrored and soon overtook the entire Swiss watchmaking industry's unit sales combined. So Rolex isn't just fighting a supply chain crisis, they are navigating a massive generational shift in how people even think about wristwear.
So how do they fix it? Part 4, 4 strategic solutions.
Rolex leadership is staring down a very high-stakes dilemma. Realistically, they have 4 distinct paths to solve this issue of barren showcases: increase supply, increase retail prices, launch an e-commerce channel, or just choose to do absolutely nothing. Let's break down the massive risks associated with each one of these.
Option 1, just make more watches, right? It sounds so obvious, but if demand suddenly shifts, say due to a global economic downturn, Rolex could be left with a disastrous oversupply.
And this isn't just theory. The Richemont Group aggressively overproduced for the Asian market, and when demand suddenly cooled off, they literally had to spend over $530 million buying back and destroying excess watches just to save their brand's prestige. Rolex absolutely cannot afford a mistake like that.
Option 2, hike up the retail prices to match the gray market. I mean, if people are throwing down $19,000 anyway, why shouldn't Rolex be the one collecting it? Well, doing that might elevate them to that ultra-luxury Holy Trinity tier alongside brands like Patek Philippe, but it risks entirely alienating their core customer base. Rolex's unique heritage was built on being a luxurious yet relatively accessible tool watch for everyday professionals. Doubling prices completely betrays that identity.
All right, option 3 is launching e-commerce. Selling directly online could cut out those gray market middlemen entirely and ensure authentic pricing. But luxury is about way more than just clicking add to cart. Selling online completely destroys the tactile prestige of the offline luxury experience. You lose the feeling of the weight of the steel, the process of getting the bracelet adjusted, and most importantly, building a lifelong relationship with a trusted local dealer.
And finally, option 4, literally do nothing. Just let the wait lists pile up and let the gray market run wild. Some people argue this shortage actually creates a mystic factor that makes the watches even more desirable. But doing nothing leaves those loyal, rent-paying authorized dealers totally bankrupt. Even worse, it sends incredibly frustrated buyers walking straight out the door and directly into the arms of competing high-end brands.
Which brings us to the core of this whole explainer. Part 5. The ultimate luxury dilemma.
Rolex is under immense pressure to maintain a century-old legacy in a highly digitized, rapidly changing modern economy. As the case study brilliantly notes, come rain or shine, a Rolex should always be a Rolex. They have spent 100 years perfectly curating this image of uncompromising quality, exclusivity, and tradition. Any drastic shift to chase short-term market trends or to grab that gray market cash risks breaking the very mystic factor that makes the brand so valuable in the first place.
So, I want to leave you with a really provocative question to think about. What is the true goal of a luxury business? Should a brand like Rolex operate like a traditional company and just maximize its profits by meeting demand? Or is true luxury about maximizing exclusivity, even if it means leaving hundreds of millions of dollars on the table? It's a fascinating question and one that really redefines what it means to be successful in the business of prestige.